everybody. How's it going? Good evening, good evening, good evening. We are here again for another top-notch episode of Let's Go Retro. Man, I know I say this every single week, but I am so excited to bring today's topic with you. Yes, we are talking old school Disney. It doesn't even fit on my head anymore. But this is awesome. So first and foremost, thanks everyone for being here. Brian K, Pierce, what's up? AAU Triton, how's it going? Coaster Mom, Max, Eleanor, good evening. Who else? I don't want to miss anybody. Christina G, Shauna, thanks so much, everyone, for being here as we kick off today's episode. Carla, good evening. So I'm going to take this off because I'm afraid it's going to fall. It is so delicate. Let's put this down over here. Man, what a night. And so much has been going on since last time we spoke. And just to recap, last week at this very same time, we hit our major milestone of over 200 subscribers. And just in this last week, we continue to gain. We're now up to 213. So thank you, everybody, so much for your support, for your contributions, and just hanging out. It is so much appreciated. If you haven't already done so, please do hit the like button as you're coming in. If you're just ninja watching, that's cool. You don't have to be in the chat, but do make sure you hit the thumbs up and subscribe if you have not. One thing I do want to say right off the bat, and hello, Lisa T and Duke Mom, welcome. Something that's going to upset a few people. We kind of reset some of the points. So going into kind of our last Halloween stream, if you came in during the Halloween stream, you would have gained some additional points, but we reset everybody. We've had so many new viewers coming in. I wanted to make it fair. So definitely available to play and gamble if you wish. But we did kind of try and even the field a little bit. So now that we got that bad news out of the way, let's get talking craziness. And here's a crazy stat I wanted to share kind of right out of the gun with you guys. So as I mentioned, last week was a big milestone. We are on the cusp. And when I say cusp, it's like 150 or 200 views away from hitting 30,000 views, which is insane. So thank you guys so much for all the views. That milestone is just around the corner. These streams are so much fun to talk and go turn back the clock and go back in time. But the fact that we're hitting all these milestones together is amazing. It's mind-blowing. So now let's get into today's episode. We are going to go back and talk Disney. But I had some trouble with this, and I'll tell you why. When I first set out to start putting a game plan together of how I wanted this evening to go, I started finding more and more things that I was like, oh, I have to talk about this. Oh, I have to talk about this. Oh, I have to talk about that. And it was just steamrolling like crazy. So what I've done, very similar to how we did sitcoms and cartoons, is I've kind of cherry picked a few items here and there that I wanted to make sure to talk about. Definitely in the chat, call out some of the other things when we go section by section, and I'd love to hear your stories as well. But I had to try and bundle it up. So because we're kind of packaging it up, there's going to be a lot more Disney to talk about. You can't talk about Disney in one night, in an hour. So we're definitely going to have a part 2 about this. So Christina G, I'm so glad you asked that question. Her question was, when was your first Disney trip? And that is actually what I'm about to get into right now. So when I first went to Disney, I was like really, really small. I don't even know if I was 6, but I was a little kid. Hey, Lindsay, good evening. Welcome in. And when I was 6, we're talking back in the 80s, early to mid 80s, when I first went to Disney World with my parents. Obviously, it's a very different park than it is today. And that's really where I wanted to start. I wanted to start today and talk about the parks. There were a couple of rides, attractions that are no longer there today that had huge impacts on me. So I thought that's the perfect place to start. There were so many cool things that we saw at Disney. First and foremost, in the top corner over here, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I don't know if everyone here has had an opportunity to ride this attraction, which is now the Little Mermaid. But this was a monster attraction. And I know AAU Triton did one of his 360 videos showing the ride. So definitely make sure to check out his stream and you could see what the ride was like. But as a little kid, to walk up and see this huge body of water, which at the time looked like an ocean, right? And my parents say, "Here's a submarine. We're gonna get in a submarine." I was like, "Oh my God." And of course, when you get in, it's tiny, it's little. The windows are like this big. You can barely see anything through it. But for me, this became very quickly, probably before we even left the dock, one of my favorite rides of all time because A, you're underwater in a sub, and B, it was really cool. Now, I certainly don't remember the whole ride because I was so little, but it was just such a cool concept and a cool idea, and I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to ride it as a little kid. Now, a couple years ago, when we went back to Disney in, gosh, I think it was just before COVID started. So was it 2019? I think we were there in 17 and 19, and going to ride Little Mermaid and walking on those grounds. And we know from Patrick, walking around and seeing that ride and talking about it himself, that area has changed a lot. And some of those rocks, one of the cast members that was there was telling us some of the facade of those rocks and whatnot were actually used within the Little Mermaid setup. So it's kind of, the Imagineers' way of kind of reusing or keeping some of the original attraction part of the ride. So I thought that was really cool. And I really loved the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Again, probably one of my favorites of all time. Now, if we go down to this corner, the bottom corner over here, we had the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, not Mine Train. This was the scary Snow White ride, and again, no longer exists. And I was terrified of jump scares, absolutely horrified. Anything that jumped at it anywhere was like pure panic. So when we went on this ride, because it was in the dark and you sit in the little cars that took you through, again, I don't know if, hey, coach, yeah, no problem, no problem at all. Um, I don't know if you guys remember actually riding this ride, the Snow White Dark ride, but it goes through and it is pretty dark. And I remember asking a cast member, is there anything that jumps out during this ride? And the cast member told me towards the end, there's a witch that kind of pops out. And again, pops out in Disney terms is very different than pops out anywhere else, right? It probably kind of lowers down or kind of comes out from around a corner. I spent the entire ride like this with my hands over my eyes. I could not tell you what it looked like inside, how many scenes there were, what characters you saw. I knew nothing. Nothing at all. Yeah, Carla says, yeah, that ride scares me as a kid. Absolutely, it was terrifying. Devora, wow, I haven't been on a single one of these. Oh, Devora, I'm sorry, and you're not gonna have a chance anymore. But yeah, this ride, that Snow White ride, was absolutely terrifying. And of course, you have your eyes closed, so all you're hearing is the sounds, which made it way worse than it probably actually was if I kept my eyes open. It probably would have been nothing at all. one one of the other things about this park, and I'm going to stay on this side. I'm going to stay over here in the Magic Kingdom area. It's really hard pointing in the different directions. It's all opposite. Staying in the Magic Kingdom, I was hoping I'd find this picture for tonight, but I wasn't able to find it. So I'll definitely have to post it and share it at some point. But I have a picture. We were waiting for a parade, and I was sitting on the curb of the road down Main Street, like so many tourists do today. And it's funny because I had one of those giant lollipops, And I have a picture sitting, and holding this giant lollipop as a little kid. Now, I don't remember this firsthand. I can only go by the story my parents have told me many of times. So I'm sure there was some exaggerations of the story. But I was sitting in there with the lollipop. They took the picture. And after they took the picture, I went to give it one lick, two licks. And on the third lick, it fell out of my hand and shattered across the ground. Andrew, hey, welcome in. Good to have you here. So my big giant lollipop fell to the ground and shattered. Now imagine you're a little kid, maybe 6 years old. You're excited to see the parade. You've just had the biggest lollipop in your life fall and smash into a million pieces. I was devastated, they told me. They said I carried on like I've never carried on before. I probably would do the same today at the price of those lollipops if I dropped it and shattered it. I'm just kidding. But yeah, so very fond memories of a little kid in Magic Kingdom. That's right, because I can't speak. Christina G. I was a huge Code A at that point in time. But I love the Magic Kingdom. And every time we've been back since, I wanted to stay there. I didn't want to go to anywhere else. So we didn't go on this trip when I was really little, but years later, when I went again with my family, we went over here. Um, we really enjoyed, MGM Studios at the time and the Great Movie Ride. And the Great Movie Ride is probably, again, one of my favorites of all time. And if you haven't experienced the Great Movie Ride, it is definitely worth finding on YouTube to explore and see what it was all about. But this was a ride where you'd sit in it and it would take you through the movies, little spots, little snippets of all the movies, and it was just so well done. The animatronics, the scenes they took you through was just incredible. It was absolutely mind blowing. If we go down to the bottom corner over here, again, this was another huge attraction that was very impactful for me. Captain EO. I was a huge Michael Jackson fan, massive Michael Jackson fan. And when we got there and I saw, oh my gosh, here's, my favorite pop star, the King of Pop, is in a 3D movie, IMAX, the whole thing. It was so crazy. And the music was awesome. The characters were so cool. I remember at the end in 3D, the little guy flies out like right into your face and you just want to catch him. But it was so cool. I have recently gone back and kind of watched it on a YouTube feed. And it was actually really cheesy. No surprise there. But it was really cool. So if you haven't seen it, definitely is worth going. So was lucky enough going at a young age twice, once by myself when I was really small, going again when kind of my brothers were born and able to come, and then I hadn't been since until what did I say, 2017 and 2019 we went. And it's funny because when we got married, my wife said to me, we should go to Disney for our honeymoon. And I said, we don't want to go to Disney for our honeymoon. Let's go to a beach. We'll do an all-inclusive. We'll have so much fun. Now, keep in mind, neither one of us really drink. And, we're both, well, me more than her, very picky eaters. So we kind of kiboshed going to Disney and we went to the Bahamas. Well, in 2017, when we went to the parks and we had so much fun, after our first day there, I turned to her and I said, I'm sorry, we should have come to Disney for our honeymoon. So, needless to say, the parks have had such an impact on me, especially these last couple of years, and meeting so many of you and with Patrick and Tom and a lot of the others. It's been so great to still, be super connected. So these are kind of the core main attractions I know I wanted to talk about. There's so many more that have come and gone or have changed and been repurposed. So I'd love to see, in the chat if there are other, rides that you want to call out. Definitely mention them, and we'll make sure to, at least have a little snippet of them. Disney's greater than all inclusives, cruises anywhere. Absolutely, absolutely. So now this was the easy page. This was the easy part. And I do want to say, I have a little surprise for you guys coming up in a couple of slides. So make sure you do hang around. Okay, here we go. We're now getting into the tough stuff, and this is really where I had to scale back. When we get into Disney cartoons and we talk about the Disney afternoon, I don't know how much you guys remember a lot of these cartoons, with Gargoyles and DuckTales and The Lion King and Gummy Bears, and there was just so much. And this is where I really had to be careful because there was so much to talk about. So I'm trying really really hard. So please do, holler at me in the chat and tell me to stop talking and move on if I'm going for too much. But when we talk about shows, there were so many. And I know there's tons more, and that's what I'm saying. I really had to limit it. Some of these were my favorites growing up. Darkwing Duck. Who didn't love Darkwing Duck? Let's get dangerous. One of the best theme songs of all time. Darkwing Duck. When you're in trouble, you call DW. Darkwing Duck. Let's get dangerous. So cool. It was so much fun. And that's one of the songs you can listen to without even watching the show. Of course, the same holds true with Rescue Rangers. Chip, 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 and Dale. Rescue Rangers. Such a good song. Such a good song. Of course, if they made it today, it would be Don't Trip, Chip, Rescue Rangers. But Rescue Rangers was such a good show. Whether you watched it on the weekends, you watched it early after school, it was just so amazing. Duke Mom says, we went to Disney on our honeymoon. We did Disney first, then a Disney cruise. That's awesome, Duke Mom. That is totally the way to do it. So yeah, Rescue Rangers and Darkwing Duck were two staples. The other show that I felt was a little AAU host better not start singing Answer the Call. No, it's too new. Answer the Call is not retro, so we're not going to play it. One of the other shows that was a staple for me, and I consider it really underrated, was Tailspin. Tailspin was one of these shows that kind of came out of the blue for me. And as a kid, that airplane was sick. It was so cool. The characters were just fun. It was a nice twist. It seemed like an original idea, and it was just enjoyable. Again, the music was decent. The stories were fun. It didn't get too serious that I remember, but it was just a really, really cool adventure show that seemed like it was a more mature Disney show compared to, you know, um, the Rescue Rangers or Gummy Bears or DuckTales. Tailspin just seemed to have a little bit of an edge, right? Yes, Baloo was in Tailspin. You are correct. It was a lot of the Jungle Book characters. Um, Gummy Bears, as I mentioned, was such a fun show. It had a cool theme song, very upbeat, a little bit silly, great for kids, and it was one of those ones that definitely kind of stuck out in my mind, right? It was an enjoyable cartoon. And there's so many more Disney cartoons. This really just scratches the surface. And I didn't want to spend too much time going into them because the next section I want to get to was the hardest for me by far. If I thought this was hard, the next one was even harder. Christina G says, I loved Epcot. You know what? Epcot for me was interesting. As a kid, yes, it had Captain EO and it had a couple other attractions, but I wasn't fascinated of covering that much ground. As a little kid, it's a lot of walking, and at the Magic Kingdom, every little bit you walk, there was a new attraction, there was a new theming. It was cool. Where Epcot was definitely the more mature, older crowd versus kind of the little kid crowd. I know it's definitely changed a lot today. There's a lot more stuff there, and of course they have Frozen After, which is probably one of the greatest rides I've ever been on. So it definitely has changed, and they've done a good job, and they will continue with Avengers and everything else. So we'll definitely spend more time talking specifically about Disney cartoons because it's tough. But where the best part and what I really wanted to spend most of today talking about are the shorts. The Mickey Mouse and the Disney shorts, the small animated movies were unbelievable. To me, this is better than a lot of their features. And I have to get my notes. I actually had to make notes because some of the names were so hard to remember. But as I was seeing pictures, I was like, oh my God, I love this. I love this. So the first one, and one of my favorites of all time. Let's see if you guys actually can remember the name. If we go, no, up here, where is it? Up here in the corner. The one with Mickey, Donald, and Goofy. Does this ring a bell to anybody as to which cartoon it was? I'd be very impressed if somebody remembers the name. I know somebody will because you guys are way better with names than I am. But this was one of my favorite um, kind of animated shorts of all time. Hey, Sean, good evening. Uh, I'll give you a hint. It's very timely with the time of season it is, but I had no idea what this one was actually called. So I can see nobody's even going to take a guess. This was called The Lonesome Ghosts, and this is where the three of them, they needed a place to stay. They went into this house. He was haunted with the ghosts, and the ghosts were messing with them the whole time. Um, Such a classic. I loved it. It was so much fun. When we moved down over this way to Canine Caddy, this one, so I was a big golfer growing up. Well, not when I was little now, but my dad and my grandfather were really, really big golfers. So talking about or watching Canine Caddy was so much fun. It was so cool because here you got, Golfing Mickey. He's out with Pluto, all the shenanigans on the golf course. It was so much fun. And I love how these two at the bottom kind of tied into each other. Because if I remember correctly and how the order I watched it, the end of Canine Caddy led into this guy over here. AU says, I remember watching it but couldn't remember the name. It's so true. When I was looking up these shorts, I could not remember half the names, but I remembered seeing the visuals so much. But this guy over here with the bubbles, that one was Bumblebee Pluto. And if you remember what happens at the end of golf, they kind of walk away and they go to, the clubhouse or wherever it is. And Pluto sees the gumball machine, right? And he goes to get a gumball and he tries to eat the gumball. And that's where he meets the bee. And the bee actually has a name, but I can't remember. It was like Stevie B, or no, that was a singer, Stevie B. There's a name to the bee, but I can't remember the name of the bee. But the whole episode is Pluto, he's stuck and he doing all this stuff with the bubble gum and he's chasing this bee. And that was one of the funniest shorts. It was classic, pure classic. At the top, this is also one of our family favorite episodes. In fact, my kids watch this all the time today. And it's Mickey's Trailer. Mickey's Trailer, this is where they wake up and they have, it looks like they have a beautiful backdrop and they push a button and the backdrop kind of folds up and it goes in the trailer and Goofy's driving them. And Mickey says, hey, okay, dinner's here or lunch, breakfast, whatever it is, breakfast is here. And they push a button and it flips Donald out of bed and turns the bedroom into the kitchen. And Goofy jumps through the window to eat with them. And all of a sudden the car goes crazy and Goofy jumps back out and the trailer gets separated from the car and it's all the shenanigans that takes place. It was such a fun original short. It was one of the best by far. One of the other ones that I have, I didn't put a picture in it, but it was Pluto and the Gopher. I don't know if you guys remember Pluto and the Gopher. This is the one the Gopher was coming up out of the ground and Pluto had to chase him and he was trying to dig him out. And this, I think Pluto and the Gopher tied in with Canine Caddy. That's where we first saw the Gopher. And as Pluto chases him, he makes all the holes and the whole thing collapses. And such a fun episode. And there are so many of these shorts. I highly recommend finding them and going back and watching them because they are outstanding. Now, the one that I want to spend the most time talking about, and I really hope you guys remember this one because this is the all-time best in my favorite. Through the Mirror Mickey. Is there anybody in the chat right now that has not seen Through the Mirror Mickey? Because this one, when we first saw it, was next level. To me, it was animation I hadn't seen before, kind of animation tricks. It pulled off some really neat ideas and concepts, and I know I really loved it, and I'm very curious if anybody is watching right now that hasn't seen it, because I have a treat for you. So I'm just curious to see what we have. Duke Mom says, I have not seen this short. All right. Well, I am happy that you have said you haven't seen this short, because what I'm going to do, I have the very short version of the short, and I'm going to play it. So we're going to watch it. It's only about 3 minutes. The full version is a bit longer, but it'll give you an idea. So I'm going to play this, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about it. So if you haven't seen it, definitely enjoy it, take it in, and we're going to talk about it in a minute. So enjoy. It's only about 3 minutes. Here we go.
Calling all cards. Calling all cards. Calling all cards. Calling all cards.
That was awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed that. It brings back so many memories to watch it. And you're right. So different than the shorts of today. So brilliant, so creative. And there's so much that's not included in that was cut out, right? When he's running around the globe, he actually trips and falls, and he falls into the ocean. When in the picture in kind of the corner here, when he answers the old phone, he starts skipping with the phone. It was just so cool and so unique. I love when he's running with the cards, right? And the cards are pulling off their stuff and throwing it. And Mickey, because he's the most resilient mouse ever, turns on the fan and blows all the cards away. It was just so awesome. And this is why I love kind of a lot of these old cartoons, the old specifically kind of the Mickey Mouse shorts, and because they were just so creative, they were so unique. The animation was so cool. Him pressing through the mirror. There's a whole scene in the extended version where he's kind of looking at it and seeing that something looks different on the other side, and he pushes in one hand, goes through, and then he does the whole thing before he finally steps on through. It was just such a cool concept. I know Disney Plus has a lot of these old shorts. They're hard to find unless you know the titles of them and you could search by title. That's how I found Kanon Caddy and a couple other ones, is actually by going through and looking up the individual titles and searching for them. But definitely cool and worth checking out. Now, one of the topics, gosh, I I'm glad I rushed through so much because this last topic is a big one, and I wanted to have some good conversation. Um, we talked about the parks, we talked about kind of the shorts, we talked about some of the cartoons. The only thing left to really talk about, whoops, that's the only thing left to talk about are the movies. And this is a very hard topic to contain in a short period of time. And I know I've left, about half an hour. I don't think we'll need all half an hour. I want to try and end a little bit early tonight. Um, but when it comes to the animated movies, and we're not even talking live action, there's so many live action. That's going to have to be a whole other stream when we talk about like National Treasure and Mighty Ducks and all of the live action movies that Disney has done, and not even to include the live action remakes of a lot of the classics. But for me, of course, we all know Cinderella and Snow White, and the original movies hold such a special place to all of us. But the couple here, and the one that's missing kind of behind my head, 101 Dalmatians, is one of my kids' favorites. But the one that's missing in this little collage picture is Beauty and the Beast. And for me, Little Mermaid, Lion King, Aladdin, and Beauty and the Beast are kind of the core four for me that really meant something. Um, I did buy. I was buying the DVDs like crazy. I should have grabbed it to show you guys, but I bought I think it's the Aladdin big special edition box set. That's really cool. I still have it in the shrink wrap. Actually, I think all my Disney DVDs I still have in the shrink wrap. Um, but when we take it back, Little Mermaid, I mean, who didn't like Little Mermaid? The music was insane. It was so good. Um, the singing was spectacular. Of course, she was such a great character, and hard to relate to, but relatable at the same time, right? And the difficult decisions she has to make. With Aladdin, Aladdin really hit for me when was it 92, I think, when Aladdin came out. So for me, it was just into, was it in my high school years. Um, Such a cool adventure movie. I loved adventure movie. Again, the music was awesome. Back then, back in the day, a lot of people actually told me I looked like Aladdin in a certain way. I had a very similar build to the character. So I did go as Aladdin for Halloween a couple times. But it was just such a fun movie, and it's still a fun movie if you go back and watch. Unfortunately, they made like a dozen sequels to it, which I can't stand. But the thing with Aladdin as well is you have Robin Williams as the genie, who is just absolutely brilliant. Not to take anything away from Will Smith, who tried to portray a genie in a modern era with a twist, but just wasn't the same. So Aladdin, is always going to be one of my tops. And I'm actually surprised that there isn't really any type of Aladdin attraction at Disney World. Um, I know they have the magic carpets, but I thought it was such a good opportunity with the music to really do something more. After you had Aladdin, you had Beauty and the Beast. I know those were in back-to-back years, and Beauty and the Beast, another one, hit song after hit song after hit song. Just such an incredible story of, again, an outcast, somebody who's different, wanted to get out of their little town, faced with all the adversity, um, dealing with what she had to, keeping calm, cool, and collected, and making the best out of her situation with the beast. And it's such an awesome story, and it's such a cool play. I was lucky enough to see it when it came to Toronto in the theater, like live action theater, and it was amazing. Like the way they did the effects and the costumes was just so much fun. Now you can't talk about costumes in theater plays without talking about Lion King. Before I even get into the movie, Lion King, the theatrical performance, all the animals and costumes, and we've seen, if you watched on the streams, you've seen what they've done at Animal Kingdom with the Lion King live show, which is very cool. But the Broadway play and the touring play that went around where all the actors had the animals with the sticks and they were moving them around and up and down the aisles was just so spectacular. It was so incredible to watch, and it was a lot of fun to kind of see that performance in real life. So very cool. One of the other movies that for me probably means the most. Duke Mom says they played Beauty and the Beast on a couple of Disney cruises for sure. Absolutely. It's I think Beauty and the Beast is going to be, one of the staples, forever moving forward. It's just such a unique story. Whether you're, a young kid or an adult or senior, everybody finds some commonality with it. I should say performed. Yeah, I got what you meant, Duke Mom. But the one movie, and I didn't even put a picture of it. Shame on me. One of the movies that animated movies that is probably the most relatable for me is Peter Pan, and I can't believe, in throwing all this together, I didn't even grab a screenshot of Peter Pan to put up here. So Peter Pan for me is super relatable, not because I can fly and not because I fight pirates or have a my own cult of lost boys, although I guess you could say we're all part of the cult of lost boys and lost children. But Peter Pan for me, I've always loved messing around, having fun, never wanting to grow up. Um, when I was a little kid, when I was a teenager, into adulthood, I was always kind of the goofball and like to have fun. As you guys have, been watching my streams, I'm sure it comes across in spades, that I just like to have a good time. And so my aunt, and shout out to Auntie Bonbon, if you're watching, here's your shout out. So I hope you're watching, Auntie Bonbon. She always, in every birthday card, in every, message I get from her, she always calls me her Peter Pan because I never want to grow up. And it's so cool. And so that movie always kind of holds a nice special place for me with that message. And the thing I love even more, forget about the movie being great and being called the kid who'll never grow up and all that. Um, the ride, the Peter Pan ride at Magic Kingdom is amazing. When we were there, I don't know how many times I went on it. Not as many as Haunted Mansion, but I went on it a lot, and it's so cool. And I think my favorite part of that whole ride is when you're flying over the city, right? When you're in the boat and you look down and you see the whole city below. It was so cool. Such an awesome part. So really enjoyed that moment. And it was funny tying this section kind of back to the first section with Magic Kingdom. When we were there in 2019, we went at 11 p.m. because then the park stayed open till midnight. So just before 11, we watched the fireworks from our building. We stayed at Bay Lake Tower, so we watched from that bridge. We went back in, we had a little rest, and I said, okay, Dee, come on, we're going to the park. It's, quarter to 11. Let's go. And with the Contemporary being so close, we walked it over in a couple of minutes. We got in, we saw the nighttime kind of after the fireworks show, kind of the good night castle illuminations. So that's on my channel. Definitely go and watch that. And we just went ride jumping because there was no line. So we hit so many things. And as we were walking out, it was 5 minutes to 12, right? Park's getting ready to close. And right next to, right by the exit where Tony's is, that theater at the front, they had a meet and greet with Mickey, or they had a meet and greet with Tinkerbell. And there was no lineup for either one. And as we were walking in, the cast member said, who do you want to see, Mickey or Tink? And we said, we have to see Tink. And he said, okay, but just so you know, by the time you go through and come out, you're not going to be able to come in and see Mickey. And I think we surprised the cast member that we chose to go see Tink over Mickey, but we waited in line. Well, there wasn't a line, there was a handful of people in front of us, but we got through and we waited. We saw Tink, and the cast member that was portraying Tink was so lively and so spunky and so much fun. So we did our picture and we were goofing around, and she never once gave us that look like, why are two old people coming to see me just before midnight? Um, didn't get the creeped out vibe. And I said to her, I said, we had to come see you before we left tonight because my aunt always called me her Peter Pan. And so I needed to come get a picture with Tinkerbell to really be her Peter Pan. And she loved the story. She thought it was so funny. We all had some good laughs and took some nice pictures and went on our way. So it was just such a cool little moment. One of the at the same time, when we were there that evening, we were doing the stretch down the back. We did uh, Haunted Mansion and Little Mermaid, and we kind of said, okay, let's go meet Ariel since we're here. And we went in to meet Ariel. There was one couple in front of us, so we went to see meet Ariel, and she's in full Ariel costume, and we sit down beside her, and it was the most awkward character meeting of all time. I definitely 100% got the vibe of her saying, these people are creepy. Why on earth are they coming here? What is with these people? It was so funny. It's the most awkward photos of all time, but it was fun nonetheless. So these are some of the movies that really had a huge impact on me. One of the other ones that I watched actually just recently was the original Dumbo. I don't know if you guys have gone back and watched the original Dumbo in a long time, but seeing, on streams the ride all the time, I'm like, man, we should go back and watch it. And the one thing that blew my mind is in the entire Dumbo movie, he only flies one time. My whole life, that I can remember, I remember Dumbo, and the whole thing about Dumbo is he flies. He's a flying elephant. It's a big deal. He's a flying elephant. Excuse me. When you watch the movie, it's short. Was it 35 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever it is? But he only flies the one time. And I remember we were watching it, and the whole time I kept sitting there and I was like, when's he going to fly? Is this the point he flies? When is he going to fly? And then, of course, the big scene at the end, he gets the feather and he flies around, and the movie's over. And I remember going, wait a second, all this hype and all this commotion over a flying elephant, and he only flies once in a movie? What's up with that? So it was kind of cool. It was a lot of fun. So those are kind of the movies I wanted to talk about. Like I said, we definitely will go down a path for the live action stuff kind of coming on. So that kind of really kind of brings us towards the end of a lot of the Disney stuff I want to touch on. I'm happy that you guys hung out with us. I'm happy you enjoyed kind of the short we showed. I hope you got a kick out of that. Curious, if anybody in the chat, if there's any other kind of Disney attractions, Disney movies, anything I may have missed. We have a couple extra minutes here before I wrap it up. But anything that you want to kind of call out or call attention to as something that we should definitely spend a little bit more time talking about, because there's so much. I had such a hard time narrowing it down when looking back at what is out there. AAU, you're right. It was awesome and it was so much fun. I'm glad it actually worked. So that was really, really cool. Um, so on that note, I do want to say, my It's my son's birthday tomorrow. It's Noah's birthday tomorrow. So we're gonna, have a bit of a celebration for him. We're not gonna live stream it, but I just wanted to live, kind of on here, wish him a very happy early birthday. AU host Bed Knobs and Broomsticks was such a yes, Bed Knobs and Broomsticks. The Bed Knobs and Broomsticks, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Mary Poppins. Those were so classic. You could keep going on. Absent Minded Professor, Flubber. There were so many good ones that we'll definitely have to talk more about. Disney is such a broad topic. It really is, Brian, and it's so hard because there's so much. And what means a lot to me could be very different to yourself, to Triton, to Pierce, to Duke Mom. Disney is so different from everybody, that it's so hard. But I'm glad I got to call out some of these things that meant a lot to me. And thank you, Duke Mom. I will definitely, and Brian, I will definitely pass along birthday wishes to Noah. So thank you guys so much for tuning in and continuing to, um, entertain me by entertaining you, and allowing us to have some fun. We're going to continue to hit milestones. For us, the next episode, next week, next Tuesday, we are going to go horror. We're going to go back and talk some scary movies. Um, there's a lot out there to talk about, and I didn't want to do it over Halloween because everything's kind of on horror overdrive right now. So I figure, why not? We'll do it a week after Halloween, and we'll get into some of the classic vintage horror and thrasher films and some of the best characters of all time. So with that, I definitely want to say, host, have we done retro metal yet? No, we haven't done metal. We've gone hard rock when we talked a lot about, AC/DC, Metallica, and stuff like that, but we haven't gone pure metal. So definitely, Pierce, the next music one, we'll have to do a segment on metal for sure. Yeah, so yeah, Sean, definitely we're gonna go old school. There's so much to go on the horror front, and I loved scary movies as a kid. Not so much today, but I liked like the classics. There's so much garbage out there. We're gonna talk about the good stuff. AU says we need to do a retro cereal night. That would be awesome. I will see if there's maybe we'd make it a retro food stream and we could work a cereal segment in. That's a great idea. Let me make a note of that. Retro foods and cereal. Awesome. Done. It's on the list. Exactly, Sean. Exactly. 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your door. Oh, I can't wait. I'm so excited to get into that with you guys. So, with that said, I will say goodnight to everyone. Have a great week. We're back next Tuesday to talk some scary movies. Saturday night, we will be calling the game live, Toronto versus the Boston Bruins. Toronto's actually playing Vegas tonight, and I don't even know what the score is. I haven't been paying any attention. I've been giving you guys my full attention. Um, Thank you very much, Pierce. Appreciate it. You guys have an excellent night, a fantastic week. Thank you, Sean. And we'll see you guys on some streams real soon. So take care. Samwell B12 out. Wait a second. Time out. I'm not leaving. Go Bees. Oh, Sean. No. Go Leafs. That's gonna be a fun. That's gonna be a fun stream. We're gonna have some chit chatty, some trash talking on that stream. Okay, now I'm going for real. All right, everyone. Let's close the show out. Who was the leader of the club that was made for you and me? Samuel. Duke Mom, I love that. Let's close out the show with who was the leader of the club that was made for you and me? SAMWELB. That is awesome. Thank you for that, Duke Mom. CeeLo, what's up, my friend? We are just about signing off, but thanks for popping in. Appreciate it. All right, guys. It's okay. It's okay. That's what the replays are for, my brother. Have a great night, everyone. Have a great week. We'll see some of you guys Saturday night. Stop in for the hockey game. And otherwise, we'll see you right back here Tuesday to talk some scary movies. Take care. All the best. Good night.